Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe. I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar, here with episode 71 of the series. Another week of college football and the NFL in the book, one on the horizon. Also, the first college football playoff rankings done by the committee instead of the AP poll. Those are important because that's the committee that's going to release the bracket about this time next month, actually. So I'm really looking forward to that. One of the big changes of the college football season, the 12-team playoff, and we have the rankings from 1 to 12 of where the teams would be slotted and potential matchups. All of that, very likely to change. But now you kind of have a gauge on what exactly the committee's thinking as to what teams go where, the new format, conference champions getting the bye, and how the rankings shape out. But before we get to that, I'll go through the biggest college football games of the week as we show. Starting, of course, I don't think you can go through this week without mentioning Ohio State-Penn State, and this is where I wanted to spend most of my time. Boise State blowing out on San Diego State, looking for that group of 5 spot. They look good. And then we'll get to Miami taking down Duke. Malik Murphy with 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. Cam Ward, we're trying to run a Heisman campaign here. 400 yards, 5 touchdowns on a pick, and the U just keeps winning. They're number 4 in the playoff projections. One spot ahead is the Ohio State Buckeyes, 2 spots behind the Penn State Nittany Lions. Both teams looking for a playoff berth. Both teams likely to finish 11-1, although Ohio State with a big challenge against Indiana. When the Hoosiers come to town, the Nittany Lions favored the rest of the way in their 4 games, starting with Washington and the whiteout on Peacock. But in this one, more of the same. The more things change, the more they stay the same. It was a typical Penn State-Ohio State game, Ohio State wearing them down by attrition. But this one started with the Nittany Lions getting on the board, Ryan Barker with the opening field goal, and then Zion Tracy, 31-yard pick 6, and they're able to move the ball. They got stalled in the red zone, and then the pick 6 really sealed momentum for Penn State in front of the sellout crowd, and mostly white. Decent amount of Ohio State fans there too, but kind of like an unofficial whiteout with the helmet stripe, but crowd was packed. I mean, College Game Day was there, Big Noon was there. Penn State, they were right on the horizon of finally winning that one with the number 3 ranking, the lead, and a solid offense. Meanwhile, Ohio State coming off a tough win against Nebraska where they needed to reshape the line, didn't look too good, but they've owned Penn State. This is their 8th straight victory, and they're able to do it again. After the Zion Tracy pick 6, Penn State had all the momentum, but Ohio State quieted him down. Well, Howard found his momentum. He got to his receivers, Jeremiah Smith, especially Mika Ibuka, Brandon Inniss, with some nice passes through the air for Ohio State to take the lead in that defense with JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer absolutely swarming. The option play on the ground, I mean, the offensive line held up. They were able to get it to Quinshon Judkins, who had 95 yards on 14 carries, Travion Henderson, as well as Ohio State, used a little fake and with a little option play, Judkins getting yards on the ground. And Ohio State just that much more physical. But Penn State had their opportunities. With the Buckeyes up 14-10, Penn State drove deep down into Ohio State territory, looking for the lead, but we're not able to get it. First of all, Ohio State could have gone up by more themselves. Will Howard ended up fumbling the ball out of the end zone to give Penn State a huge break, keep it at 14-10. Penn State with Drew Aller moving the football. A lot of creativity, but the creativity mark with a offensive lineman playing receiver, and they tried some reverse handoffs trying to run it to the right. Ohio State was there, met them in the backfield, but driving all the way down the field was the Penn State Nittany Lions. They were able to get all the way down to the 3-yard line, but they were not able to find the end zone as Davison Igman-Newson with a one-handed interception to wrestle the football away from Harrison Wallace and keep the score at 14-10 for the Buckeyes, who then improved their lead to 17-10 early in the third quarter before Penn State were back with a field goal of their own. But it was really a defensive battle up at that point. Abdul Carter started to get Howard. Ohio State's ferocious defensive line all over Drew Aller, and Penn State wasn't able to. If anything, Ohio State got the field goal to go up 20-13, and Penn State actually did get tired to action to get all the way down the field with a catch and then a run to the 3-yard line, and Penn State had their best chance of the afternoon with first and goal from the 3-yard line to go up and take the lead or at least tie the game. They had a heck of a decision to make, but a goal line stand by the Buckeyes, straight run plays up the middle, and Andy Kolnicki and all the creativity it just went out the window. It didn't work in the open field, and when they got to they were not able to punch the football in from 3 yards out, and they went straight up the middle 3 times, and they could have tried to pass it. They could have tried to, run Aller with the football. He had a lane. They could have used Tyler Warren. I mean, they're just running it up the middle. I mean, you're playing to lose. You're playing not to win, and it really cost them there. And then on the fourth down, they looked for Tyler Warren, but Caleb Downs was all over him. So it would have been incomplete or short, and then throwing it over the middle, incomplete. Ohio State was all over there. Some people did complain about the officiating in favor of Ohio State, some penalties on Penn State, and some undisciplined play, like getting up over the defender or over the receiver, even though it didn't need to be called. It was a penalty by the rule, with the taunting. Did kind of get up over him, and that kept an Ohio State drive alive that they ended up capitalizing on. So just things like that, just sloppy play from the Nittany Lions that really cost them. But they still had their chances, though. Even with all of that, they still had their chances. And to not be able to get it in from the 3-yard line twice, I mean, it's just unexcusable. Even once, I mean, like you'd think you'd football there and it gets taken away, and it's just you're not able to get in once, and when they had their opportunities, and it's just between that and then between running the football in or attempting to and getting stuffed, it's just just not good play calling there. I mean, that's really what cost them. I mean, Penn State, for all their talent around all over the team. I mean, what really separates these two teams is receiver play, because both teams do have really good defense, quarterbacks, running backs, even although they got bottled. But Penn State, if they had better receivers, they would have been able to find the end zone. That definitely cost them. The play calling at the goal line cost them. First with the pass and then with the 3 straight runs, that was not very helpful. And then, some penalties didn't really help them either. But really, not being able to punch it in from the 3 twice, I mean, you've got to have a receiver be able to make the catch, and you've got to be able to have some more creativity in those big moments. And Ohio State also, not the prettiest of wins. I mean, Jeremiah Smith could have had a deep pass caught. They could have, yeah, I mean, Jeremiah Smith could have had the deep pass caught, and, they could have not fumbled out the back of the end zone. So they also gave up chances, but Penn State just unable to take advantage when they were right there. Previous years, they had not been right there, but this year they were. Their defense played a great game as well. And the Nittany Lions find themselves in their usual position of beating every good team, or beating everyone else except for the absolute elite of the elite. But both teams are 7-3-6 and looking for CFP home game. Ohio State also with one loss. I mean, they fixed their offensive line. They lost to Oregon. They also left a lot of points. Oregon definitely looked like a better team, although we can get a read. So both teams looking for the playoff. Both teams likely to finish the regular season at 11-1, unless Ohio State falls to Indiana, which is a bit of a possibility, as Indiana's just blowing out competition left and right. But we'll have to see about that. I mean, they've improved a lot. And they knocked off Michigan State 47-10, but we'll see what happens. Ohio State, I mean, they blew out Nebraska 56-7, while Ohio State struggled 21-17. So if that says anything, I mean, this IU offense is absolutely explosive. I mean, they're going to be a good fight, to possibly end up in the Big Ten championship game as well. But yeah, I mean, so like I said, knocking off MSU 47-10. They play UM. Some of the other games from the week, Georgia over Florida in the world's most famous outdoor cocktail party, or like to call that. But Georgia, with the two touchdown win over the Gators at home. Not a pretty one. I mean, I don't really think they should have the 2 ranking over Ohio State, to be completely honest with you. Might be a little bit Big Ten bias, but I mean, Florida didn't really play such a great game, but I mean, they were in the game because Carson Beck threw 3 interceptions and Georgia able to hold on. And, they're also 7-1, haven't lost since to Alabama a few weeks ago, or over a month ago now, but they beat Texas. So, Florida, not the best team. They're 4-4, but they, put up a decent fight. But yeah, I mean, the Bulldogs with the number 2 ranking, Oregon rolling over Michigan 38-17, pretty expected there. They look like the best team in the country on both sides of the football. Dylan Gabriel looks really good, 22 for 34, 294 and a touchdown. The Ducks are just absolutely feasting, and besides Donovan Edwards, Colston Loveland, Davis Warren playing an okay game, but against the Ducks, not nearly good enough, falling to 5-4. Army knocking off Air Force undefeated at 8-0. Vanderbilt going bowling, 17-7. 17-7 win over the Auburn Tigers, and they are 6-3 with a number 24 ranking, as now they take on another SEC underdog, South Carolina, so who's fresh off their victory over A&M 44-20. So that should be quite the interesting one as well. Vandy lost 15 straight to South Carolina, which is kind of an interesting one as well. But yeah, they've been close a couple of times, but last year 47-6 loss in South Carolina. So we'll see if Vanderbilt can snap that. They have bowl eligibility. South Carolina needing one more win there. Alabama taking on LSU this weekend as well. Tennessee over Kentucky, SMU over Pitt, who's previously undefeated, towards the top of the ACC are both of those two teams. But yeah, I mean and then Louisville knocking off Clemson for their Clemson's first loss since the opener against Georgia, and that's a big one in the ACC as well for both. We're looking for a second place here in the ACC. Miami right now, SMU looking good, 8-1, including the domination of Pitt there, and their only loss being to a number 9 ranked BYU in the Big 12, who leads the Big 12. But yeah, we'll get to the. Might as well just do the next week's preview and then do the rankings, as I've already kind of alluded to here. But next week, the biggest games. Well, there's quite a few actually. I mean, Florida going to Texas. Excuse me. Take on the number 5 Longhorns. Purdue taking on Ohio State in the big noon kickoff game. Although that it's likely to be an Ohio State blowout. We're looking at a 7-1 Buckeyes, a 1-7 Boilers. So Ohio got to keep the intensity up. Georgia taking on Ole Miss in the SEC battle there. Clemson taking on Virginia. Michigan at number 8, Indiana, as I mentioned. South Carolina taking on number 24, Vanderbilt. Rutgers back in last week taking on Minnesota, looking to snap their 4-game losing skin against a Gophers team who's been pretty impressive lately. They beat USC, they've beaten Maryland, they've beaten Illinois. So Rutgers going to have their hands full there. Maryland going to Oregon, take on the number 1 Ducks. Alabama taking on LSU in a ranked SEC matchup. That one's always a good one. Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame taking on Florida State, Washington battling Penn State in the whiteout game, Boise State hosting Nevada, Pitt hosting Virginia, BYU, the Holy War against Utah, and Utah State taking on Washington State, who has a number ranking as well. Colorado taking on Texas Tech, Iowa State going to Kansas. Those are pretty much, and Army going to North Texas. So those are pretty much all the ranked games of the week. So yeah, looking forward to that one. Going to be a good week of college football as always. I did want to talk about the CFP rankings. The playoff rankings. With the 12-team playoff, just to take a look at how the season is shaped up in the bracket. Excuse me. So far we have number 1 Oregon sitting with the 9-0 record. Number 2 Ohio State 7-1. Number 3 Georgia also 7-1. Number 4 Miami 9-0. Number 5 Texas 7-1. Number 6 Penn State 7-1. Number 7 Tennessee 7-1. Number 8 Indiana at 9-0. BYU is number 9 at 8-0. Notre Dame 7-1. Independent there. Alabama 6-2, hanging into a playoff spot as well at the moment, and Boise State, the number 12 seed at 7-1. SMU sitting just outside 8-1. A&M 7-2, and so on and so forth. That's the rankings. So this year the format going to be a little bit different. First round games on campus, second round. So it's election day exactly a month and a day from now. But first round games on campus, second round games at the bowls. So yeah, a lot of good. just to check out the bracket. Based on the rankings, it's not as simple as just 1 to 12, the way they're set. But yeah, that bracket real quick. So with the four first round buys would go to Oregon, Ohio State, or actually Oregon, Georgia, Miami, and BYU. Excuse me. The four highest conference champions end up with the buys. So Oregon at the number one ranking would get the number one, the first bye. BYU would get the second bye with a number four. Georgia would get the third bye at number two, and then Miami would get the other bye with the number three ranking there. So they'd be in this basically in the quarterfinals already. And the rest of the field is going to be the at-larges. So even though Ohio State finishing with the second best ranking, they'd end up with the fifth seed in the playoff because they're not a conference champion, assuming Oregon ends up winning the Big Ten. So they'll host Boise State at the Horseshoe, Tennessee, the number 8 seed, hosting number 9 Indiana, number 7 Penn State hosting number 10 Notre Dame, and number 6 Texas hosting number 11 Alabama. So that's just your first round games on campus. So it's going to be quite an interesting there. Some things to keep an eye on are Boise State. Can they get past the 12 ranking and possibly even ahead, of some of these other teams, so they don't end up in the 12th spot automatically? And right now, exactly at number 12. Right now, they're the fifth highest conference champion, but they could even end up with a bye or a home game if they can move up. But we'll see. Boise State right now at 12. Oregon, BYU, Georgia, and Miami expected to win their conference right now. Alabama would go on the road to Texas in an SEC matchup that didn't happen in the regular season. That'd be good. Notre Dame going to Penn State for a playoff game. Another whiteout energy type game at Penn State. That would be a really interesting one as well. That place would be rocking for a playoff game. Boise State going to Ohio State, as I mentioned, that would be interesting at the Shoe. And then Indiana going on the road to Tennessee in the SEC battle there. So that, of course, being a good matchup. We'll see how all these things change, but I'm really looking forward to these playoff games. Obviously, it should be a really good time. I mean, the college football playoff first round on campus, then at the bowl game sites, the New Year's games, the Fiesta Bowl, Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl, and Sugar Bowl will be finals, and then the other two, Orange Bowl and Cotton Bowl, the semis, and then the championship on January 20th. I cannot wait for this college football playoff bracket to really take shape. But we still got a lot of the season left. We still got a month. A lot of rivalry games, a lot of Big Ten, all over the place. Really, a lot of rivalry games and a lot of games in general. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how things shape out. We still got a lot of time, but that's what college football playoff rankings hold. I guess I did want to get over to the NFL side. Going further into this episode, I guess just to go through last week's slate of games. The Jets knocking off the Houston Texans 21-13 to snap a big losing skin of, I believe, 6 games. Meanwhile, the Texans 6-3, first in their division. Aaron Rodgers dialing it up 211 and 3 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson making a ridiculous one-handed catch, getting his foot in twice. Breece Hall had a good game, 74 yards. Devontae Adams with a touchdown as well. And people are wondering, are the Jets back? I mean, they have a long way to go to prove it, but definitely a good start there to snap their skin, get a win on Halloween. The Panthers knocking off the New Orleans Saints 23-22 in a battle of teams towards the bottom of the NFL. Panthers also snapping a losing skin. The Saints just continue to keep losing after starting off 2-0 and looking really good against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's just falling off the rails for New Orleans. And but yeah, Carolina, Bryce Young back in action, 171 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. They'll play the Giants next week in Germany, or this weekend. Commanders taking on those my team, the New York Giants. Daniel Jones having another good game, although first half he didn't really do a lot. He had -6 yards, I believe, at halftime and a touchdown somehow, and it just didn't seem like they trusted him. I mean, Jude McAtamney, Rutgers alum, there for the for field goal duties, and extra points, which was really cool to see. Not enough Rutgers to the Giants connections there, but and Jaden Daniels dialing it up for Washington, 15 for 22, 209, 2 touchdowns, and able to hold off the Giants, built a 21-7 lead with a nice pass to Terry McLaurin before the end of the first half. The Giants were actually played really well. Daniel Jones ran it into the end zone, threw a nice pass to Theo Johnson late in the game, but that was all she wrote, and the Giants weren't able to come back. They're 2-7. Commanders are 7-2. Giants put up a good fight against Washington, but Washington gets the season sweep, I believe, for the first time since 2020. And usually it is the Giants winning those games, not this time around. The Bills knocking off the Finns, Tua Tagovailoa with a near perfect game, 25 of 28, 231, and 2 touchdowns. But Josh Allen, 235, 3 touchdowns and a pick, hauled off Miami in a back and forth affair. The Bills going up ahead 27-20, the Dolphins tying it, but Tyler Bass from 61 yards out to end it against the Bills, against the Dolphins, excuse me, and the Buffalo Bills are 7-2. They play the Chiefs in a couple weeks in Orchard Park, and not trying to give the Chiefs their first loss of the season. We'll see if they can do that, as the Chiefs have been able to maintain their undefeated streaks. I'll get to that one later. The Chargers taking down the Browns with Jameis Winston throwing 3 interceptions, not looking too great after he did last week. Justin Herbert looking pretty good. The Chargers looking for a wild card spot. They're 5-3. The Pats falling to the Titans. Drake May got the game to overtime, was not able to extend it any further. 206 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. Mason Rudolph in Tennessee with their much-needed second win of the season. The Falcons knocking off the Cowboys falling off, and Dak Prescott now with an injury, not looking too great there. They're gonna have to turn to their backup quarterback, Cooper Rush. Kirk Cousins, 19 for 24, 222 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Falcons just continue to keep winning at the top of the NFC South. They're 6-3. Cowboys 3-5. Ravens dominating the Broncos 41-10. Baltimore looks good, also sitting at 6-3. Bouncing back from their loss to the Cleveland Browns. The Bears falling short against the Cardinals. Not really a great game for Chicago. And Caleb Williams, although he played pretty all right. Cardinals just, continue to score in all sorts of ways. Field goals, a safety, touchdowns. So Cardinals 29-9. The Eagles hanging on against the Jags. I mean, Nick Sirianni really has to watch what he's doing, because, leaving all these points and 2-point conversions and just going for it when they could have just, went for field goals. It's just, they left so many points on the board, going for 2 and going for, field goals. And then they sent out Jake Elliott, and they actually played really good. Saquon Barkley had a ridiculous backwards hurdle, and Devontae Smith with a beautiful catch in the end zone. But, and the Jaguars almost came back, but, they were intercepted. Nakobe Dean picking it off in the end zone. The Eagles at 6-2, looking to compete with Washington to top the division. The Rams knocking off Seattle 26-20 in OT. Geno Smith, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. The Seahawks in the wrong direction. The NFC West is an interesting division, with Cardinals now holding the lead, 5-4. Rams, Niners 4-4. Seahawks 4-5. They're all bunched up. That could be anyone's division. Yeah, and then the Lions knocking off the Packers. It was all Detroit for most of the game, although the Packers try to fight back. But the Lions looking like possibly the best team in the NFL. They're playing, with their all cylinders firing on all sides of the ball, and knocking off a Green Bay team in the frozen tundra. Snowing. The Vikings knocking off the Colts to get to 6-2 in a sloppy game on Sunday Night Football. Not really too much to say about that one. Both teams turning it over off, and Joe Flacco not having a great game, 16 for 27, 179 a pick. Sam Darnold, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, although 28 for 34, and the Vikings back to their winning ways after losing and then to end the week with the Super Bowl champions Kansas City Chiefs improving to a league best 8-0, and they just continue to find ways to win. Patrick Mahomes went down for a second, he came back, but yeah, they just keep finding ways to win. Not the greatest game for Tampa Bay, but I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, welcome to the scene. He scored 2 touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes, Samaje Perine, Kareem Hunt, whoever they have just gets going as long as you have Mahomes in there. The defense elite with Chris Jones and the guys, and Mahomes, another 34 for 44, 291 and 3 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt 106 and a touchdown. Travis Kelce's been playing better lately, 14 receptions for 100 yards, and now you throw in DeAndre Hopkins. You got Xavier Worthy as well. Kareem Hunt. I mean, Pacheco's going to come back. This team's only going to get better, and they look like they have a talented receiver who can make the plays that have been missing for this team. So they'll be able to ride in with Hopkins and Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster as well. So the Chiefs just keep winning, which is unusual. I mean, 2 years ago they had a really prolific offense. Last year, a bit of struggles. This year they're struggling, but they're winning, and they're only going to get better now with D-Hop and Xavier Worthy, Juju Smith-Schuster's in there, of course. And you got Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. I mean, that's really all they need. Kelce, Kelce, Hunt with Pacheco is going to be coming back as well. And then, a 1-2 option in DeAndre Hopkins and in, Xavier Worthy. And then, of course, Juju Smith-Schuster and, other weapons out there. But, I mean, really just Mahomes, Kelce, D-Hop, Xavier Worthy, and you want to mix in Juju Smith-Schuster. You have Kareem Hunt, you have Pacheco. I mean, this team with the defense of them and Patrick Mahomes, he has the weapons to make plays, and they're only going to get better. I'm sure they're going to figure it out. It's not looking too permanent. They just keep finding ways to win, and they'll continue to keep it going. But yeah, that's going to be much the NFL recap for this week on Week 9. Week 10 starts today. This one a little bit later in the week on Thursday. Usually do Wednesdays, but the Bengals taking on the Ravens in what should be a really good Thursday night football matchup between Cincinnati and Baltimore. I believe their first one, the Ravens won in a thriller, 41-38, went to overtime. Joe Burrow had 5 touchdowns on 392 yards. Lamar Jackson 348, 4 touchdowns. Some special teams miscues, and the Bengals started the season 1-4, excuse me. But now a bit later in the season, the two teams play again. Cincinnati's been able to find some winning ways as of late. They're 4-5, more or less 6-3. The Giants taking on the Panthers in Germany. Both teams, your fans probably want them to lose, but they'll try to find a way to win. The Giants, their first time being a favorite in 5.5 or in 24 games, I believe, or something like that. And the Panthers are going to continue their streak of being underdogs. Brian Burns' revenge game after being traded from Carolina, so that should be an interesting one. Niners taking on the Bucks in a battle of teams that have kind of looked also average. McCaffrey returning from the IR. I believe in this game. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, Pats Bears, Broncos Chiefs. I think Broncos had a win against them last year. The Bills taking on the Colts. Steelers. Commanders should be a good one. To Pittsburgh team, and the Commanders 7-2 as well. That should be a good one. Vikings taking on the Jaguars. Falcons taking on the Saints in the NFC South. Saints are a train wreck now. Titans taking on the Chargers, the Jets in Arizona, the Battle of Cardinals. Eagles-Cowboys with Cooper Rush. Eagles looking to make a statement here in Dallas in the divisional game. That's America's game of the week. Lions taking on the Texans in the second game. That one should be really good as well. And then finally, the Dolphins going out to LA to battle the Rams. And Week 11 opens up with Commanders taking on the Eagles. So of Eagles-Cowboys being one of those games for the division, that could be a real litmus test for who's going to win the division. Washington, Philadelphia, the Commanders 7-2, the Eagles 6-2. So Washington usually has been able to steal one from Philly. This year, it might not be stealing one. It's going to be, can they get one? Can they get two? But that's 2 weeks from now. So I'll talk about that a little bit later. Ravens also taking on the Steelers. Texans taking on the Cowboys. Chiefs taking on the Bills. That's on week 11, 2 weeks from now. Should be a really good game as well. But in the meantime, though, that's pretty much all I got for this edition of Sports Vibe. As always, I'm your host, Arnav Sarkar, bringing you the best with the NFL, college football, and the like. And until next time, I'll see you next week.